So Russia has an impending logistics problem. There are only really three ways to resupply the southern portions of the front lines here. The first is obviously via the Kerch Bridge. The second is through the southern portion of Ukraine from the southern military district through Mariupol to Melitopol along road and rail lines here. And then the third is a ferry system that crosses the Sea of Azov. The Ukrainians destroyed the ports surrounding this ferry system, so that is offline. That just leaves two methods to resupply. The first is through the southern military district, and the second is the Kerch Bridge. The Kerch Bridge has 13 kilometers in Ukrainian territory, and the United States has granted the Ukrainians the authority to attack anywhere that Russia has occupied Ukrainian territory, including Crimea. Since 13 kilometers of the Kerch Bridge is in claimed Ukrainian territory, it is fair game. So that could be the next target, leaving just this southern military district route to Melitopol, Mariupol, and potentially even into Crimea, unless they can resupply via boat this way. So that becomes problematic for Russia. Now, Russia is trying to circumvent this by creating an additional secondary rail and road route through this southern portion. And actually, if they are successful in creating that rail route, it will significantly improve the prospects of resupplying the Russians in this regard. But all of the stations, all of the logistics hubs are legitimate targets. And that is something Russia is having to contend with. And if they cannot outpace Ukraine destroying their hubs, which it takes only one or two missiles to do, with construction, they're just not going to be able to resupply deep into Russian-held territory. And it only means that Ukraine once again has to buy their time. And this has happened before. We saw this in Kherson right here. That was a situation where it became logistically untenable for Russia to resupply. Are we starting to see that with regard to Crimea? Well, one thing's for sure, when the Kerch Bridge goes down, it cuts off Crimea from logistics other than via ship, which the port system that heads into Crimea is always under fire, always under attack. Or you have to go a long route via road and rail across areas that are within HIMARS range, and that is very dangerous for that rail and road network trying to resupply Crimea. And it might become quite difficult for Russia to supply anything that runs this way or even to the south of the front line.